Hi everyone, my name is Glenn Bartley and I'm a nature photographer from Canada. Over the next 5 months I'll be traveling to the country of Ecuador, pursuing a large nature photography expedition. And while I'm down there I thought I'd film a series of video blog posts so that you can come along with me. I thought while I'm still here in Canada we'd start with what's in the bag, what gear am I taking down to Ecuador with me. So we might as well start with the basics here. We've got a couple of camera bodies here. I'm shooting with Canon equipment, and I'll be using the Canon 50D, and my backup camera will be the Canon 40D. I like these cameras because they offer a 1.6 crop factor and also aren't as expensive as the 1 series cameras. My workhorse lens for this trip will be the Canon 500mm f4 image stabilized lens, and it's probably what I'll do about 90% of my shooting, given that I shoot mostly birds. I'll also be bringing along with me the Canon 300mm f4 image stabilized lens. I imagine that I won't use this a whole lot for birds, maybe some of the larger species, but for other things such as frogs and insects, I imagine that the close focus capabilities of this lens will come in handy quite a bit. The third lens that I'll be bringing with me is the Canon 70-200 f4 lens. And I imagine that I'll use this for landscapes, perhaps larger mammals, and perhaps while I'm shooting hummingbirds, because it offers a zoom. I'll also be bringing along a 1.4 times teleconverter, a set of extension tubes. These are the Kenko extension tubes. And when I'm out shooting some of the amazing landscapes in Ecuador, I'll be using the Canon 17-40 f4 lens. So as for some of the other items that I'll be carrying along in my photography bag, I mentioned I'll be doing quite a bit of hummingbird photography while down in Ecuador, and the flash that I'm choosing to use for that is the Canon 430EX, mostly because it's less expensive than its big brother, the 580EX. I'll be bringing 7 of these along, and to remotely trigger these flashes I'll be using the Canon ST-E2 wireless transmitter. Other items in the bag, of course, memory cards. I use the SanDisk line of memory cards. I use the Extreme 3 version. I have a 16GB, an 8GB, and 2 4GB, so that should provide sufficient memory. Batteries for the cameras. Now luckily both of my cameras use the same battery, so I actually have 8 batteries for the cameras to keep me charged up just in case I can't find a power source to plug into. Essential item while in the tropics, often shooting in rather dark conditions, overcast or under the forest canopy, better beamer flash extender, very, very important. And the only filter that I carry in my camera bag is a Tiffin circular polarizer filter for landscape shots, just to give that little bit of extra saturation and to take the glare off of water. So next I thought we'd have a look at some of the computer equipment that I'll be taking along with me to view and store images while on this trip. Being a trip of 5 months long, you need to actually think quite a bit about how you're going to store your images, how you're going to keep them safe, and how you're going to take them from the camera to a storage media. So for me, the first line here is to have a laptop with me. And I've got a Dell 700M. It's a little bit of a dated computer, but it still does a really good job of viewing images in the field. It's small, it's lightweight. It's a computer that I like to take around with me. Once I've got them onto the computer, I have this Lacy 300GB FireWire enabled, very portable hard drive, and that'll be my first line of backing up images. Just in case something happens to my computer, I wouldn't be able to back up images to the Lacy hard drive because you need to plug it into the computer. So this is sort of a backup device in 2 ways. Not only can I back up images while I'm in the field, actually while I'm out shooting, because you can plug your compact flash card directly into this device, but if my laptop does go down and I'm no longer able to use it, I'll still be able to back up images to this, the hyperdrive color space. I'll actually be able to view them as well and verify that the images have been transferred to this hard drive. And this is a 160GB unit, so actually quite a bit of storage on this item here. And the third hard drive that I'm bringing is one that I'll be leaving in Quito as a sort of safety area. Every time I return back to the capital city of Ecuador, I'll be backing up all my images onto this 500GB normal computer hard drive. So the next items that I'm going to show you are all my tripods and flash stands that I'll be taking with me on my trip. Start with the big one. The main one is the Gitzo 1340 Mark II aluminum tripod. Now I would love to have a carbon fiber tripod, but my budget for this trip is not unlimited, and so I've chosen just to take the aluminum one. It's a little bit heavier, but it is a very stable tripod, and it's served me well so far. Now mounted on top of the Gitzo here, we've got a Wimberley gimbal type tripod head, and I find that this is really what you want to be using if you've got a 500 or 600 millimeter lens. It takes the weight of the lens out of the question, makes it much more enjoyable to use and easier to photograph the subjects that you're after. On top of the Wimberley here, we've got the Wimberley flash bracket, and it's mounted to a Canon off-camera shoe cord. That enables you to get your flash up higher, up off of the camera, and gives more pleasing flash results. So that's the main tripod. I will also be bringing with me a Markins ball head when I'm not using the 500mm lens. If I'm using the 300, 70-200, or the 17-40, and especially if I'm out on a hike. This is a much lighter option, and it's great for a lens up to about a 300mm, but I find that the weight of the 500mm on top of the ball head makes it just too volatile to use while out in the field. Now, as I mentioned, I'll be doing a lot of hummingbird photography on this trip, and to mount all of those flashes that I'll be using to photograph the hummingbirds, I need to bring with me flash stands. And I'm going to have to bring 8 flash stands with me. So, although these items individually aren't that heavy, carrying around with me 8 of them is going to add up and add quite a bit of weight to my overall baggage. So hummingbird photography poses its own unique set of challenges, especially on a trip when you're away from home and you have to carry a lot of gear. As I already mentioned, I'll be bringing along 7 flashes as well as 8 flash stands, and that alone is a lot of gear, but there's also a lot of supplementary items that you need to bring along. Photographing hummingbirds well, especially using multiple flash setup, requires artificial backgrounds. So here I've got a tube with 6 artificial backgrounds in it, and I'll be bringing another tube with several more backgrounds. These are printed on a very matte finished paper, and I'll be filming a video about the hummingbird photography later, so you'll get a better sense of what exactly that means. But for now, it's sufficient to know that they're heavy, and I've got to bring them along with me. In order to attract hummingbirds, when I'm staying at a given lodge or a conservation area, I'll be bringing along with me hummingbird feeders. Often these lodges and conservation areas have feeders set up, but many of them have little perches on them, and that makes it really difficult to actually photograph the birds while they're flying. So I'll be bringing along these type that have no perches on them, and I'll be bringing 5 of these down with me. Of course, all of those flashes need batteries. So I choose to use the Maha PowerX type of batteries. They're AA batteries. Very long lasting, very good batteries. They charge quickly. And because I have 7 flashes, I'll need batteries for each of those flashes, and I'll also need a backup set. So I'll actually be bringing along 56 AA batteries with me. And to charge all those batteries, you need chargers. Now, some chargers take quite a long time to charge up batteries, but again, the Maha PowerX charger that I hold here charges 8 batteries and does so in about an hour. So I can charge all of my gear, all of my batteries rather quickly, and I'll be bringing along 2 of these chargers, so to speed things up even more. Of course, the main subject while I'm down in Ecuador is going to be birds. I photograph almost primarily birds, and that's what I really love to photograph. So with that said, there's a few accessories that come along with bird watching. Of course, good set of binoculars. I often use calls to attract birds, either for photography or just to identify species. I'll be using an iPod and a set of speakers that I bought on eBay for rather cheap, about $5. And in order to identify these birds, I will need the Guide to the Birds of Ecuador. Now, in order to cut down on the weight, the actual full field guide is quite a larger book. I cut just the color plates out, as you can see here, and then had it rebound. So makes it much lighter and more portable to carry out into the field. And just as a resource, I've got the Moon Handbook's Guide to Ecuador, which Moon Handbooks is sort of the travel series that I like to carry with me. So that pretty much covers the main photo gear that I'll be taking with me on my trip to Ecuador. Of course, I'll be bringing along personal items, all of my clothing and all of those types of things. There's other chargers and batteries and cables and all those things that I won't bore you with. But that's the main stuff. It's going to be heavy, it's all fragile, it's expensive stuff, but it's an interesting challenge to go on a nature photography excursion, especially a solo one like this for 5 months, and I thought that sharing with you some of these things might be interesting. So the next time you see me, I'll be in Ecuador, I'll have less hair, and hopefully I'll be out photographing some of the amazing wildlife that that country has to offer. I'll see you then.